All right, Mike, you wanted me to talk to you a little bit about the heavy action as far as the release in the golf swing. Remember that when I wrote those emails to you, I was describing to you that what we want to do as the club goes up to the top and we hinge the wrist is we want to activate that club head. We want to make sure that we got that energy, loading into that club head. And when it loads into the club head, you're going to have a sense that you can feel the weight of that club head at the top. It's going to feel very heavy to you. When you release it properly, you're also going to feel like it's very heavy down at the bottom. That heavy sensation feels like that club head is trying to drive down into the center of the earth. As you release it heavy, the heavy action is driving it down in such a way it's actually trying to keep it in the earth. Your upward posting of your left leg, the releasing of your postural angles, the rotation through will pull that club out of the ground. As it's being pulled out of the ground, it still is trying to get that sense that it is staying in the ground, that club head's trying to drive down to the center of the earth. So if you really have a good heavy release, you're going to find out that there's no way your arms and your hands can manipulate what that club head's doing. And it happens in a way where you're letting the lever angles load and unload instead of trying to manipulate it. If you try to thrust it into the ground, you can still get a sense of the heavy club head, but it won't be as heavy as if you let the body do the work. Now there's three different angles in the delivery action that we have discussed. One of them is what I call a covering delivery, and that one's more on top. Those golfers, they achieve their release, the full release, when the club's about a foot or two past the ball, with longer clubs maybe 3 feet past the ball. So their delivery action is much more downward and vertical through the golf ball. These are the golfers that often have the sense that they think that they hit down on the golf ball more. We also have golfers that are more like you. They have a delivery angle that's more 45 degrees past the ball. At that point, though, the whole release action is completed. My arms, hands, and club have reached their inline attitude, and that's when the full release is completed. So, at that point, you're going to get that sense that your swing is done, and from there, all you're doing is your body rotates out to the finish, and the momentum of the body rotation is what's carrying it to the finish. Instead of your arms whipping past your body and pulling your body around, you're going to feel like the arms, hands, club have caught up to the body, and the continuation of the body moving up to the finish is what carries the arms to the finish. We also have one more delivery action. It's more of an outward extending delivery. That's more like mine. Under golfers do this, and they come into the golf ball. They still have a nice heavy feeling as they go down through the golf ball. The body delivers it in a very heavy action, but the full extension is achieved much more outward, somewhere between waist high and chest high in the follow through. So, with all these release actions, you can still achieve them with a very heavy type of action. So let's look at yours now, because that's the one that you're more interested in. I'm gonna work on trying to get to a feeling where my release is completed at 45 degrees past the ball, and at that point I'm gonna feel like that club head is still hanging nice and heavy below my hands. By the way, this is what Fred Couples does, and he's probably one of the best leverers of the golf club in the game, still today. And you can see in his swing, he levers that club really well. As that comes down, boom, he releases it, and his swing looks like it's done by about this point. The rest of the swing, his body turns, and it's just kind of like do-do-do-do-do-do, right around to the finish, and it looks so smooth and effortless at that point. But you can really see the way he levers that club, and wham, releases that club head heavy. So when you reach your full extension, you're going to find that club head's still hanging nice and heavy below your hands if you've done it correctly. If your arms and your hands are swinging the club head, you're going to find that club head keeps swinging past your hands. It feels very light through the golf ball. And in the follow through over here, the club head is being suspended in a very light position. So the main drill I have people do this is just what I call the heavy drill. And I want them to go ahead and get set up. From here, they're going to hinge their right wrist and fold their right arm up to the top. And they're going to focus on an aim point, in your case, which is 45 degrees past the ball. And you want to get the sense of just letting that lever action unhinge down and through, pointing at that aim point, which is 45 degrees past the ball. And as you do that, you're just posting up on your left leg, and you're letting your sternum come up to counterbalance that release action at that angle. It looks something like this. Now you notice that my stroke stopped there. Instead of that club head whipping past my arms, hands, and my body, everything stopped at that point, because that's where my aim point is. That's where my release action is heading towards. It's heading in a very inline attitude as it goes there. The body is what's creating that rotation. but as you deliver your arms, if you're going to deliver it in a very heavy action, there's a very linear inline attitude to the arm action during delivery. So if you really do it well, that club head's going to stop at where your body stops or where your aim point is, because that's where everything is aiming to right now. When you get good at doing this, you can go ahead and rotate all the way to the finish, and you'll feel like you still have that heavy action, except the body just carries it further. You know, it's a good idea to use this little swing saying as you say this. Just, you know, heavy, or something like heavy, post, heavy. So you get the sense, you know, of just saying it and doing it in a very athletic manner. Heavy. Okay, now I had a nice heavy release that time. The club grounded behind the ball because my posting action was a little bit late. The post has got to make room for that 45-degree delivery angle that you have. Because your delivery angle is a little bit more downward than what's conventionally or traditionally taught, you need to make more vertical room for it. You do that by posting and by letting your sternum come up through the golf ball. I'm an under golfer, and it's awfully hard for me at times to make enough vertical room when I'm demonstrating this. So that club will ground behind the ball. Now, interestingly enough, I want my impact to be heavy. I just want it heavy on the ball instead of heavy behind the ball. So a true heavy shot is a heavy release that grounds behind the ball, and a pure shot is a heavy release that's on the ball. What I call a fat shot is a weak release that grounds behind the ball. So it's club head throwaway grounding behind the ball. So if you do this right, you're going to get the heavy action, and if you really get it perfect, you're going to be heavy on the ball. Heavy. There we go. That was a nice heavy action. That club grounded on the ball. That was nice contact that time. I made enough vertical room with my posting, my sternum coming up to match that release action at the 45-degree angle. Here we go again. Heavy. So once again, you can see the club stops here. And when it stops there, that club head is hanging below my hands. Instead of being elevated with my wrist action, heavy. I've just let it go. That action's released completely. It's just hanging down, and it's hanging at my aim point because that's where everything's being directed. My body, my arms, my hands, everything's, you know, working towards that aim point right now. Heavy. Now I have an 8-iron in my hands, and you can see how small of a swing I'm making here. These shots are still flying about 110 yards in the air. So you'll see that if you really do this well, you get a good transfer of energy. You know, and the power in your swing is going to, you know, the additional power in your swing is going to come from a bigger range of motion, from, you know, bigger arc, more rotational speed in the golf swing as well. So I can work this up and I can make a little bigger swing once I have the feel of that basic heavy action. If I rotate, if I go heavy and I rotate a little bit more, the club's still going to stop where my rotation is pointed. If my arms add in, the club is going to go ahead and whip around past my body. Here we go. Heavy. Okay, so by rotating a little bit further and the club coming through a little bit further, that shot actually went further. I picked up about 15 yards on that one. Heavy. Okay, so once again, you can see how my body is just rotating a little bit further. My arms are still working with my body, because when my body stops, my arms stop. That means my arms had a very good linear inline direction to their aim point, and the body just carried it through a little bit further. That shot that time actually went about 137 yards. I've got 137 yards to my second flag here, and it flew right out next to the flag. So, you know, with a partial swing with an 8-iron, it's amazing how much distance you can get. A lot of people think you need to make full swings to get your full distance. You know, the professionals typically are going to play at about 75 or 80%, and that's what they call their full shot. Okay, here we go. One more. Heavy. Okay, that one went a little shorter than the last one. It actually grounded slightly behind the ball instead of on the ball. Still a very good heavy release, but it was heavy behind the ball instead of heavy on the ball. Once again, I needed to make more vertical room for that delivery action. Okay, so when you start to practice these heavy actions, you can do it just with a pitching wedge or a sand wedge, and you just want to do small actions. Again, you want to get the hinge action in your right wrist. You want to get the right arm folded until you can feel the weight of the club head is getting heavy. If it's vertical, it's going to feel more light. As soon as it goes past vertical is where you start to feel it's heavy. If it gets to parallel, you really get that heavy feel. From there, you want to release it downward through the ball heavy, letting that club head release below your hands instead of trying to swing up past your hands, and you'll have a nice heavy release. Once you're good with that to the aim point, then go ahead and add a little bit of rotation just so the club goes through just to waist high or just past waist high, and from there you'll be able to work it into bigger swings later on.